Let's now talk about introducing change over time in certain parameters using Ableton Live's automation functionality. So I have a completed arrangement over here. Now you may be noticing these markers at different sections of the arrangement. These are known as locators, and they're fairly easy to add. Place your cursor where you want to add a locator, and then go to the Create menu and choose Add Locator. You can also add or delete locators by clicking over here, and you can use the arrow keys right below to navigate through the locators. I'm going to rename this locator to Intro. You can also right-click a locator and choose Edit Info Text, and you can add some information that could be relevant for later on. And now when I hover my cursor on that locator, I can see the info text I typed in. Alright, so let's take a look at recording automation. Let's have a listen to the arrangement a little bit first. I have a drum rack over here.
Is it really contagious?
And I have a filter on the entire drums. Sounds very mellow. I want this filter frequency to gradually open up and brighten up the sound as we get closer to that pre-chorus section. So we can do this with automation. Creating automation is fairly straightforward. We can perform it in real time. I'm going to unsolo the track, and I'm going to make sure that the track is not armed, and also make sure that no other tracks are armed. And I'm going to just hit the record button and then perform the automation. Alright, so let's try this.
This high that I'm burning from, are we only contingent? This love that we're dependent on, the cure that I see.
Now you notice that little red dot over there that indicates that this particular parameter has automation. You can see I've already recorded automation on these two parameters here as well. Now we don't see the automation because to see automation, we need to switch to a different view by clicking over here. You can hit the A key to quickly switch to automation view. And here you can see the automation I just performed. We can tweak this automation by adjusting these breakpoints or adding in new breakpoints. Let's say I want to start a bit lower, so I can just drag this down here.
This high that I'm burning from, are we only contingent?
Alright, so that works. I also want to introduce automation on these two tracks. Let's solo them both. I'm going to hold down Command so I can solo both. This particular sound is spanned a bit to the left. So I want this to just gradually move to the left and move back to the center and then move to the right and come back to the center. And I want this to kind of move back and forth across this entire verse section. And I want the digital voice track to do the opposite. Now instead of performing this in, I can just draw in the automation. So for drawing in the automation, as long as you touch the parameter, the automation lane will show you that particular parameter. You can see over here, it says mixer track panning. As another example, let's say I touch this parameter on the compressor. Now that parameter shows up in the automation lane. Alright, so I can click to create a breakpoint, click again to create another breakpoint, move this up, click to create another breakpoint, move it down. You notice that it's snapping to the grid. You can hold down Command to temporarily disable snap to grid. But there's actually a much better way to create this automation. I'm just going to highlight the entire automation and hit delete. Now here's a bit of an annoyance. When you hit delete, we've added 2 more breakpoints. So I'll just click on the existing breakpoints and they will get removed. Alright, so now I've completely gotten rid of that automation. Now instead of drawing in these automation lines, I can right click and I can choose to insert certain shapes. Now these shapes will follow the grid. So I'm going to change my grid, which is set to a quarter note right now. I'm going to change it to an entire bar. Right click again. I'll choose the triangle shape. And I notice that triangle shape has been filled up in that first bar. I can curve these lines by holding down Option, and now I can drag and curve the line any way I want. Let's get a more unique shape like that. So let's say I'm happy with that shape, and I now want to repeat this for the entire verse section. So I can select it like this and hit Command D to duplicate that shape. I'm just going to duplicate it right till the beginning of the pre-chorus section. Alright, now for this bottom track here, I want a similar but different shape. So I'll select the pan first, right click. Let's use this shape this time. So you can see we already have these curves added in. I'm going to leave this as is. And now I'm going to select and hit Command D to duplicate that right up to the beginning of the pre-chorus. Alright, so let's hear the result of all this automation. So this adds a lot of movement in these two tracks, specifically in the stereo space. Let's unsolo and hear this in context.
Only infected, this high that I'm burning from. Are we only contingent? This love that we're dependent on. The cure that I see. Are you the
Alright, so that's how you can create automation in Ableton Live.